Right.
Mayor Taylor?
Yes.
Councilmember Watson?
Yes.
Councilmember Britton?
Here.
Councilmember Medina?
Here.
Councilmember Iyer? Absent.
Got a motion to approve the agenda, moved by Bruce Watson, discussion of the agenda. All in favor? Opposed? The agenda is approved. And the motion to approve the minutes, moved by Watson, Medina, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? The minutes are approved. Unfinished business. In the absence of unfinished business, the brush moves forward. New business.
Thanks. So I've got several items of this one group with updates. The last meeting, we put the finishing touches conceptually on the letter that was to go to the University of Michigan around formalizing some areas of concentration. That letter has been signed by the mayor and me, and it's gone out. We are currently swapping language with our new sister city of London, Ukraine on the MOU. So we've got some feedback from their delegation today. So hopefully they'll get brought to a close fairly soon. We had our initial meetings with the search firm that's working on the new HR leader that we need. So that's in process. You got the annual report for calendar year 23 yesterday. So that's in your possession. The swearing in of the chief is set for the 21st at noon in the chambers. We've invited the area chiefs, IGPOP, certain groups. Due to size limitations, we couldn't just make it a wide open thing. So that's underway. The chief came into town on the 5th of February. He's going through physical, drug screen, all the stuff we make people do. He's going through all that now. So that'll be essentially out of the way by the time the 21st gets here. The 21st is the middle of the week. So let's just say that week shop, because he will still have to go through 2 days of onboarding through the HR process. And then the next week, start to find out where the light switches are and all that stuff. So it'll take him a few weeks to settle in. I'm going to be sitting down with him in a couple of days to start to go over things. But he is not on board. He is not an employee of the city until the swearing in. So getting settled.
Mr. Dillon.
Yes.
Do you know if a formal invitation went to Congresswoman Dingell? Okay, thank you. So I believe she will be in Ann Arbor that week, and so I know she was interested. So thank you.
We are on the bicentennial front working on a number of things, but for the benefit of this group, there is still planning underway for some kind of event on May 25th. And then we are starting preliminary planning for a closing event that would be probably the second week in December. Don't have a specific date. It won't be in the same tone like the opening at Michigan Theater, but it will need to be inside somewhere because we're expecting to have a closing production at Becky Alexander. We met with her this morning and she would do with her ensemble. So more details when that comes together.
What was the first date?
May 25th is the actual birthday, and so we're looking at some kind of an event for that day. There's a separate group that's planning it. As soon as it gels enough, then we'll come up with details. Budget. So I gave you dates yesterday for what's coming with that. March 11th is the budget work session. That's at 7 p.m. April 15th is your regular council meeting. And the first portion of that meeting would be me presenting the budget for next year. It's year 2, so you kind of know what's coming, except for whatever changes we're making. So this will not be a year where we're suggesting sweeping things like we might do in a normal 2-year period. In terms of the budget, how it's going this year, 6% hike in our tax revenue growth, 23% in state shared revenue. It was projected to be flat, and it needs to be considered one time. These are monies that the state kicked out to cities, so those are one-time money. In the governor's proposed budget, there is an additional level of money, but until that's final, it's talk. It's the way we have to look at it. We will not know what our marijuana excise tax amount will be probably until the beginning of March. We'll gladly take whatever it is, but because that number comes so late, we don't have the ability to do much planning because you never know if the number is up from the last year or down from the previous year. So we will see.
I heard that only California is beating Michigan.
In sales, so we'll see.
Here you go, Michigan.
In the upcoming budget, we'll have, this is a year where we'll have a rate increase for all 3 utilities. 6% water, 3% sanitary sewer, 3% stormwater. On the
That's consistent with plan.
yeah. But it's unusual for Ann Arbor to have utility hikes of all 3 in the same year. That's what is not normal. But that's the way it's falling. So for the first time in 4 years.
Incremental increases.
Yes. When we take a look in our version of the outer years, that's where we see the issues. So in 27, the deficit's just 125,000, which is manageable. We can handle that. 28 is where it starts to get very troublesome. The projected deficit at this point is 2.5 million. And in 29, that would go to 5 million. And that is a recurring deficit, not one time. So
You do the 29.
5 million. The cause for that, labor contracts. We have 3, 4, and 5-year labor contracts, projected medical costs, fleet, everything goes up. So way too early to say, what steps would be taken, but I do want to give you sort of a glimpse into my style of dealing with these. If we get 2 years out and those numbers are staying the way they are, 2.5 million projected to go to 5 the following year, I will start to cut way before we get there. I won't wait until 28 to cut 2.5. So we'll start earlier cutting and continue cutting so that it's not all at one time. When it's all at one time, you're forced to take draconian measures, which nobody likes. The need for the city is enhanced recurring revenue, not one time, because these are recurring costs that need to be covered. We are struggling on the fleet side of things. I'll give you an example. So when you hear me talk, I'm wearing just my business hat. I'm not philosophy, policy, numbers. We are trying to electrify the fleet. So we need a new sweeper, as an example. If we get a new sweeper, it's probably in the range of $350,000, $360,000. If we were to acquire the EV version of that same sweeper, it's $750,000. We cannot pay twice the amount for equipment, or we'll be getting a whole lot less equipment. So we have to say no to that. Part of the reason that we think some of these, for the sake of discussion, I'll just call them specialty items. It's not a public review. It's like when computers first came out and cell phone prices are way up here. The industry hasn't settled yet. So if you want that version, you're paying a big premium for it. And on some of the lesser vehicles, the cost is still above what we budgeted, and the way we're dealing with it is Missy is trying to find the money to cover the delta. And so when I met with her this morning, I said, I'm on board, but what you're doing is not sustainable and really not the correct way to handle it. So we need to buy vehicle X. Vehicle X is programmed to cost this, this is how much money is in the budget. And you're trying to get a grant to cover the $50,000 or whatever the markup is. Well, it throws the whole replacement cycle off. We're waiting to see if the grant comes in. Can she take money out of the village to help buy a vehicle? I'm not sure that's really what the village is for. I mean, it's allowable, don't get nervous. But people really didn't give us village money to go pay the difference in the vehicle cost this and we're paying that. That's a peek into the weeds that you asked for. And that's kind of my items for update.
Yes. So on the marijuana millage piece, understanding that it's volatile and we didn't see expected growth. I don't know if we saw like a decrease, or we didn't see some of the projected growth, I think, from first couple of years of it. But when do we make that call of calling that recurring revenue and saying, hey, you know, it might go up, might go down, but we do plan that there's a base level of marijuana growth?
There are some things that we baked into the budget. We put some money in the budget for unarmed response. We put some money in the budget for supportive connections. There are certain things that we're covering. We expect to be able to cover those. My next comments are speculative. I can't actually back them up, but these are indicators that Marty and I both see. We think there's something funny happening with that marijuana money. You can never get data from the state. It's never on the website. You never really know how much they're taking in. You have no advanced knowledge of what you're going to get. Just a month or so before we're due to go live with the budget, we get a notification where your number is X. There's no way to challenge it. When it went down from 1 year's here, then down, we're like, we've got 23 places where people can purchase. We've extended hours. Can you give us a clue as to how it went down or what's happening in the market or what are you seeing? Crickets. So what we think is that the state is taking a larger share off the top. The only thing that makes sense, and the cities sort of get what's left. So it might be above the number, but for us to be able to have some confidence in the number. You need it to settle somewhere for 4 or 5 years, and then you can start to plan that, okay, it's gonna be around this. If you get an outlier, great. But early March is when we expect to get the number. So obviously, when I speak to you April 15th, I will have incorporated the number. Most likely, I will not program, if it comes back way over, I may not program that money and just leave it for you all to figure out what you want to do with it. Don't take that as 100%. But that's likely what would occur, because we would be scrambling at the last minute when, if we get a number in early March, the budget is almost formed by that point. We're just fine tuning it.
What is the tax base increase, assumption between now and then to get us to 28 and 21?
We still anticipate essentially flat. It's projected to stay flat. Maybe swing 1%. The 6% that we got now, we're happy with it. Marty, or any CFO, is going to be very conservative about growth. But we collaborate with outside entities, we collaborate with MMA, we talk to economists. They're all kind of saying, you're in a political year, things could get wild, the market swings, but we still have not seen a resolution to supply chain issues. Inflation is still an issue, even though it's going in the right direction. So the so-called experts are, well, not so-called, they are experts. The experts are telling us you need to be conservative in what you're doing.
Sure. But appreciated if that is, righteous and proper. But as far as we think through, our projections include a tax-based increase of 0% between now and fiscal year 28-29.
I wouldn't go so far as to say that. What I would say is the indicators in front of us right now don't show any signs of significant growth. But everything I'm telling you is based on estimates.
Sure. Okay.
So the picture could get better, which would be good for us. The thing that causes, the first thing that causes our recurring costs to get spiked is we negotiate 3, 4, and 5-year labor contracts. People aren't going to work for free, so you're promising them money, even though you don't really have a solution for how you're going to pay it. But by the time it gets here, the expectation is that your base has moved up to be able to address what you committed to. When we're seeing a lot of the supplies and things that we procure coming in much higher than we anticipated, then that hurts. So you either have to put more money into certain areas in order to procure them, or as we have done before, you hold on to that vehicle a couple of years beyond its life expectancy. You start to defer maintenance of your physical plant. Those are the things that cities do. And the onus is on me to sweat that, because deferring maintenance, I know, is a ticking time bomb on facilities, on the capital side of things. And on the human side of things, it's not a massive exodus So we are having people leave us because other people are paying more. So it's pushing forward. And when you know, John last night talking about one person doing this, and one person doing that, they sort of control things. If they were to say, well, I'm gonna walk because I got an offer over here for X more, we'd have to try to come up with X more to keep them from walking because the gap we don't hire fast. So if certain people were to leave and you got this void, it would cause a real problem within the operations. Which is why we're trying to do the comp study, put out an RFP for that. Well, even that came in twice as more than we expected. But, you know, people are smart. They know supply and demand. A lot of cities are looking at comp studies. So if you do that, you're thinking, well, hey, this is my hot period. I'm gonna charge more, because what are they gonna do? There's not that many out there that do it. So that's the push and pull that.
Can you talk a little bit more about the, obviously we got the presentation last night around the creation of an economic development office, which is going to be a strain on the general fund budget. Obviously, it's a long-term investment in the organization and about bringing in more revenue and building the housing that we want to see. And yet there are short-term implications where it's not necessarily, how are you considering that as you're preparing the budget?
It's not in the budget for right now, because we're not really at a point yet where it's firm with the council enough that that's what we're doing. So those are just ideas that represent. If those things, the elements of what John has presented are accepted, then I will try to get a couple of those positions into the budget as soon as possible. And I know we have sort of norms of how we do things. I might not wait until the whole next year. If Marty and I are in sync that the revenue can cover it. Because bringing on people like that helps to get your projects to market faster, which then increases your base. So some people might say, well, why are you doing that now instead of waiting until next year? Because we need you. So as soon as I know it's a go, then we have to actually develop the job, because we haven't done that. We have to create a position. We haven't done that. We have to figure out what is the support person that this person needs. Because if we're only going to hire one person with no support, I'm like, we shouldn't even hire the person, because you're paying them to do a whole bunch of administrative tasks that somebody else should be doing. But as fast as we can do it,
I wonder if there's an opportunity to look at potential grant money from MEDC. Like, get
Might be.
it off the ground.
it might be. I mean, we've not done any due diligence on how it could work, because we're still presenting ideas and seeing, whether it's traction.
Yeah.
But I think we look at whatever option there might be. And as I sit here before you, I don't have a clue, because I haven't been looking at the market. I don't have a clue what people are making that are doing that. And it is a buyer's market.
Yeah.
You want someone experienced, you try to lure them from somewhere else, well, I gotta have X, especially if you're asking me to move. The thing from COVID that has impacted the workforce, people are more reluctant now to move. I got family support here, I got family needs I need to address. You want me to move all the way over here, I gotta really think about that. And we do not support hiring just to be hiring. You get what you pay for. Your mediocre talent, great, but that's not what we need. Especially we're recreating an infrastructure that was once here that's been absent for years. This person needs to really know what they're doing coming in the door. Some jobs you can hire mediocre and grow it to great talent. This isn't a job where you can do that.
On the marijuana excise tax piece,
Yeah.
my recollection is that we're supposed to be getting about 15% of that, because it's like 30 split between the county and the city. If that's actually in law, I wonder if this is something we can engage with our legislators about around trying to daylight that legislatively, so that where that money is going is a little bit more transparent. The only hesitation that I have is, of course, if that's not a firm number that was written into the law as passed, that then they might go, oh, here's money we can play with, and it might end up being less. So we might want to confirm like how set that threshold is, but then maybe we can work with our legislators to hold the department accountable a little bit.
Well, we've asked obvious questions that should be easily answered, like, why is all of this other information readily available on state funding? What you're taking, where it is, you can see, sort of follow along, but there's virtually no information, and why is that? We can't even really get a real answer to why that is, which makes us suspicious. My report is over.
Okay, no more questions for Mr. Mahoney?
I have one more question.
Okay.
I was wondering if you were able to provide an update on the performance management resolution, if you had anything.
I've got a briefing with Tom next Thursday. I'll be able to answer after that.
Okay.
But it's been worked on.
Thank you.
Okay, and I will take that question. I don't know the top of my head, but I'll see if the law puts a percentage for the marijuana excise tax. Okay. On the administrative fund and front in our office, when I first started, I identified a need to counsel for a new body, an extra lawyer, and you all approved that. It's taken me forever to fill that position, but that position has been filled. We started interviews, we went through a process, we actually made an offer, and then the candidate we wanted did not accept the offer. So then we started all over again, so it's taken some time. But I've actually been grateful for that time because it has allowed me some time to see how things actually play in the office. So when somebody's on vacation, who's their backfill and who's not, who doesn't have a backfill. So it's allowed us to tailor the position a little bit more. Also keeping in mind some of the priorities of the administrative side and the report that you heard yesterday, we thought it was important to find somebody who either came with the skill set or had a keen interest in learning the skill set towards land use and real estate. So typically the city has done land use quite well, but now we're doing actual transactions, which the city has not done. So we've hired a new attorney. She just started at the end of January. Her name is Nicole Vargas. She, and I will send all of council an email introducing her. She actually had interned at the city attorney's office years ago before I was here, so people remembered her. And then she went on to work for the city of Detroit's legislative body and legal aid, and apparently had always had an interest in coming back to Ann Arbor. So she is thrilled to be here, and we are training her to develop she comes with a certain set of skills, of course, and land use comes more naturally. But we are going to train her along with Kevin, who also needs some training in actual real estate deals. because now we're beginning to do innovative things in the city. So that's the update on the attorney side. On council rules, which is something that I had brought up a specific set of council rule changes as a proposal 2 meetings ago. And that was suggesting that if a new ordinance was to be introduced, then we would look into some of the administrative questions that went along with it. In addition to that, since I made that change, we have noticed sections of council rules that could use really more clarification. So for example, the section on signs does not address at all whether public attendees can put signs on city property like walls and stuff like that. So that's just one example. Other places, council rules are not precise in their wording. For example, they'll use the word session and not meeting. And session can have a different meaning under the Roberts rules, but we really mean meeting because we don't have sessions like legislative sessions. So we've just noticed a few things where we could be a little bit more precise. So in our team, we have a project where each one of us is combing through the rules and trying to come up with clarifications that we can propose. And I propose to bring that set of clarifications for consideration by this committee in March. I have litigation updates, but I think we'd need a closed session for that. On the administrative side, this is my update. Any questions? I'll send an email to all of council introducing Nicole. It just so happened that she started and then I took some time off, so I haven't sent that email yet, but I will.
Is there any, thank you. Is there, I'm assuming you're not asking for a session, but that,
No.
if we, thank you.
Yeah.
Is there any information or upcoming business? All right. Well, excellent. Now comes public comment. Do we have public comment today?
I am here hopefully for the last time to discuss pedestrian safety. 4 weeks ago, I provided, 2 meetings ago anyway, I provided a clear map showing public walkways for the King's Store crosswalk. There is no dispute. And the reason I was very confident about that is because 3 times I've identified properties in the city of Ann Arbor needing some attention, and I was told that was not city property, it was university property, it was township property. And in all cases, I went to the county, got the map, showed the city that it was city property, and we've moved on. Now, we have not moved on regarding these crosswalks or vegetation, signs are in the wrong place, there are all kinds of issues. I've taken this to Representative Jason Morgan, his staff has contacted the city, and still nothing has been done. So I feel that we are just one serious crash away from a political crisis. We had a problem in 2016 where someone died. We had a problem in 2019 where someone was critically injured. The city is not learning from their mistakes. And I know that there's turnover, but the time is now to either make this change or tell me why you don't want to make this change, and I will take the appropriate action. So that's number one. Number two, the students passed a resolution, Central Student Government in 2019 to improve pedestrian safety on campus and in the campus area with illumination. In one case, the law school students were advocating for a blind student who was walking across an unlit crosswalk. And she said, I can't see the drivers, but I hope they can see me. The city, instead of adding illumination, added some more crosswalk signs, and you can see crosswalk signs coming and going. This solved the problem. So this I'm going to take back to the president and the regents because action needs to be taken. The last thing is, there's something called a Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. We need to be following it, comes from the federal government and then the state. The city is not following it. I had a relationship with Fred Cupey in the past. If I noticed something that was inconsistent, I identified it and it was taken care of. We have probably half a dozen cases in the city right now. I don't think it's my responsibility to go around and point them out. So I think it's important that someone with that capability look at the signage in the city of Ann Arbor and determine what needs to be done. If not, I'll simply appeal at the state level regarding that, because we can't have stop signs on both sides of the street. In one case, down by Burns Park, you're in the middle of an intersection and you look up and there's a stop sign. Do you stop in the middle of an intersection? No. Staff simply put a stop sign on both sides of the pole. It like defies logic. So anyway, thank you for listening to me, and I hope that we can resolve these issues because I'm growing old.
Thank you. Anyone else in the house? Is there anyone online who'd like to speak at public comment? Seeing no one, public comment is closed. So motion is there, please, and file Richard Lee, discussion, all in favor, opposed, or adjourned.